Hello, I'm Jill at engVid, and today we have a lesson on contractions, and you may already have seen a previous lesson I've done on contractions with the personal pronoun and the verb with an apostrophe. This is a second one in that series with negative contractions, okay? So you might find it useful to look at the other one first before you look at this one. But don't worry, if you want to watch this one first, then that's fine. Okay, so these are contractions and how to write them and how to pronounce them, just like in the other lesson. And it's particular verbs that are used with these. So the verb to be, with is and are, including the past tense, was and were, and the future, will, which changes its spelling to W-O rather than W-I. We'll come to that again in a minute. The verb to have, has and have, and the past form had, and the verb do, does, did, in the past. Okay, and we also have some conditional ones as well, and a non-standard one. So I'll explain those when we get to them. So this is the main list here, and because it's a negative contraction, we're using the word not, N-O-T, not. But because it's a contraction, that gets the O omitted, the O is missing, and the apostrophe is there instead to represent the missing O. So instead of saying is not, we just say isn't. Okay, so I've noticed some people, when they're reading from printed material and they see these contractions, they expand them and they read it as is not, are not, was not. But you shouldn't do that if it's written as a contraction. There's a particular way to pronounce it in its contracted form, abbreviated form, because these mostly represent how people speak. And when people are speaking, they make things shorter for convenience, because it's shorter and quicker when you're speaking, and it's more informal as well. So people don't go around saying is not, are not, were not. When they're having a conversation, they use these abbreviated forms. Okay, so I'll just go through them so that you get an idea of how to pronounce them. So, isn't, aren't. So this is a funny one. You might think it's aren't, but it's just aren't. It's a bit like, well, it sounds the same as that word, which is a family member, aunt and uncle. It sounds exactly the same as aunt. So that's a way of remembering how to pronounce it. So aren't, wasn't, weren't, won't, hasn't, haven't, hadn't, don't, doesn't, didn't. Okay, so it's, with most of them it's quite obvious what it is, because you just remember that the apostrophe is for the missing O, is not, are not, was not, were not. But this one, this is a bit strange, because it means will not, but it's a strange thing that when it's contracted, the I in will becomes an O. So that's very strange. But I guess it's partly because it's difficult to say willn't. It doesn't sound right at all. So it will not contracts to won't. Okay? And then hasn't, haven't, hadn't, don't, doesn't, didn't. They're all obvious what they are. Just put the O in where the apostrophe is and you'll know what it is. Okay, good. And then these three here with would, could and should. So it's would not, could not, should not, but how it sounds when contracted is wouldn't, couldn't, shouldn't. Okay? And then finally, we've covered this in another lesson about the Cockney accent. If you've not seen that one yet, you might like to have a look at it. But this is a non-standard form of a negative contraction. Ain't. It means, it goes with the verb to be. It means am not, is not, are not. It can go with any pronoun. I ain't, you ain't, he ain't, we ain't, they ain't. It works with all the pronouns, meaning is not, are not, the verb to be. But you may hear people using it, but it's a non-standard form. So I wouldn't use it if you're at an interview, for example, or in a meeting with clients, that sort of thing. It wouldn't be quite right. It's a bit too informal. But it's there for you to know about because it's yet another contraction. Okay, so I hope that's helpful to show you how to write them, how to pronounce them. And if you'd like to do a quiz to test your knowledge, just go to engvid.com and do the quiz, see how you get on. So thank you for watching and hope to see you again soon. Okay, bye for now.